just look at that beautiful scenery. I mean the scenery in front of me. That's right, welcome back everybody. We're still out here at the Farlands where we left things off in the last episode. And the reason for that is because this is the episode where we're going to be upgrading to beta 1.8. And one of the interesting things fixed in that version is that the bug which causes the Farlands terrain to generate like this gets fixed. And also, this really annoying bug, do you remember this one when you walk back and forward, the world seems to move in a really jerky fashion? Well, that gets fixed too. So I thought we could upgrade to beta 1.8 and just have a quick look around the Farlands on the insides a little bit more before we head back home and explore the massive amount of changes that come with beta 1.8. What? What just happened to my head? So there I am. I was just moving my player back into position because I happened to load this world from the last backup before I updated it, and my player was over the water there, and then when I climbed up on shore, this happened. By the way, where's my right arm? So what happens inside of my inventory? Oh no. Oh, I don't know what to make of this. Anyway, I suppose we should continue the episode this way. You know what's really weird about this is that the glasses seem to be facing towards the camera, even though this is the reverse view because there still is no F1 facing camera. Oh, it's turning to nighttime. I think I just better wait until morning and see if we can sort this out. This is getting more and more strange. I just can't explain it. Notice how my body's brightness is far too bright for the world around me. And over here, near this skeleton, unfortunately, is an area of the world which, if I enter, my whole body just goes black except for my torso. I need to escape this skeleton now, but I really can't explain it. You know what? Of all of the bugs that I've experienced in doing this series, this one is the strangest one, but I went white. This one is the strangest one by far. Top 10 weirdest bug ever. I've got to get out of here. I've come back to my world backup because unfortunately that skeleton killed me and I need to be out at the Farlands in order to be able to explore them. So let's hop back in. Now, as you can see, my character landed in the water. I want to see if this will just recreate itself if I head back over here to the landmass. That was just the strangest bug I've ever seen. Everything seems normal for now. Oh, my arm's disappeared. It's happening again. I'm the invisible man. Well, you know what? We need to wait for nighttime to pass. So, yeah, exactly the same thing's happening, except this time my head seems to be intact, so at least that's something. Anyway, I need to wait for the nighttime to pass, and then once it does, I'm going to head into the depths of the Farlands and have a bit of a look around, despite me not having a complete body. It's morning and things seem to be back to normal. Wait a minute. Is that a zombie without a head? No, you've got to be kidding me. Let's go and have a look at this. Oh my god, the zombies don't have heads. Oh, I don't know what to do anymore. I really don't know what to do anymore. Oh, that's just made my century. Oh. Little bit of a change of plan. I've decided to come up here on top of the Farlands instead because it's just far too deadly down there in the depths of the Farlands. There are too many mobs and they kill you really quickly. But from up here we get a good indication of what the Farlands terrain generation looks like without all of that jerky movement everywhere. And I think that if the terrain was going to continue, it probably would have continued way up in the sky, and who knows what it would have looked like if it wasn't capped off at this 128 block build limit up here. One other thing I noticed is that the clouds here seem to have moved up to this layer. Previously, they were passing through the Farlands and sort of just flowing out of them at about this level down here, but for some reason they're way up here now. But really, there's not a whole lot more that we can explore up here unless I perhaps try and navigate my way down. Well, I've managed to make it a little way down without taking any damage or even encountering any mobs yet, and I do just find these valleys kind of fascinating. I really do think you could base up here if you wanted to. It would be just a matter of generating the world in beta 1.7 and then updating it to 1.8 just like I did. Look at that, it looks amazing. Well, it's starting to get dangerous now. As you can see, ahead of me are some headless skeletons, and I'm sure they're about to attack me, as is this spider, which seems to be fully intact. But it's those headless skeletons that I'm worried about. I do need to find a way of getting home, though, so perhaps I can use this skeleton to my advantage and just let him slowly attack me without his head. Oh, they just look so weird, don't they? Not you, I don't want you, I want the skeleton. Thank you. Oh, amazing, amazing, just amazing. Come on, skeleton. All right, it's going to be the spider. Oh, you're the worst shot ever. Come on. All right, it's time to go home. Story time. The first Beta 1.8 version that we have access to is this one, Beta 1.8 pre-release. But why is there a pre-release for this version at all, and how did we get it? Funny story that. Let's take a look at how the adventure update came to be and how we wound up with access to this version. Notch and the Mojang gang were eager to get Minecraft out of beta and ready for its full release in time for Minecon Live 2011 later in the year. The original plan was to release the adventure update as Beta 1.7, but since it was such a huge update, to keep the updates coming out and keep the players satisfied, Beta 1.7 was released on June the 30th instead, but included just the pistons and the shears, and not much else. Notch was planning to attend the PAX event in August of 2011 and use that to showcase all of the new features going into the game. By this time, the main development work had been done, but the team still had a lot more work to do to polish the release before it'd be ready enough for people to play. Following on from PAX, Notch went off to work on another secret project, leaving Jeb in charge of completing the release. September the 8th was the target, which left only about a week to finish everything off. Like the previous versions, Mojang commissioned Hat Films to prepare an official trailer for Beta 1.8, and for this, a special release was created from the unfinished code, and this was known as Beta 1.8 Preview. If you pay close attention to the trailer, you can see some of the interface around the new XP bar was incomplete at the time they recorded it. Meanwhile, Jeb kept working away, but by September the 6th it seemed more and more unlikely that Beta 1.8 would be ready by the 8th. And so, much to the disappointment of everyone, the update was pushed out to September 12th. Well, maybe. A private pre-release version was created and distributed to Mojang's private testers. One of the groups that gets access to these early test versions was the Bucket team. Dinnerbone, who was a member of this team at the time, posted about this on his blog. Jeb also commented on how he was struggling with fixing a bug and that if he was able to fix it, he might be able to get a release prepared for expert users. How exciting! It looks like the game might be ready for public release. But unfortunately, it wasn't to be. So that settled it. No new releases until the following week. But later that day, something unexpected happened. Someone who had access to the pre-release download URL leaked it publicly to 4chan. The thing is, these pre-release versions weren't protected in any way. They were simply uploaded to the Mojang web servers just like any other release, with the main difference being that the download links weren't intended to be made public. But if someone knew the URL and then decided to make it public, there'd be nothing stopping anyone from downloading it. But now that it was leaked, just like that, Minecraft Beta 1.8 was unofficially released. Notch acknowledged the leak on Twitter. "Ooh, looks like 1.8 is leaked. Not that I'd ever admit that. Be careful when installing software you don't trust though." He goes on to say, "I'm fine with you using it. Make sure you get it from the leaked URL we're hosting though." Over on Reddit, Jeb simply responded with a smiley face. People started referring to this version as the leaked pre-release. So who leaked it? Some theorise that it must have been one of the testing groups that leaked it, but others say it was Jeb's own fault because he'd posted the download link to the operators of the Minecraft public IRC channel, and they reposted it from there. But most of the information I could find about this wasn't reliable, so I can't be sure. Either way, it's thanks to all of this that we even have this version archived. So that's the version we're starting in now. Beta 1.8 has a lot of new features to cover, so before we get stuck into all of them, let's go back to the main menu and check out some of the changes made there first. And here's the new main menu. Instead of a wallpaper of the dirt texture, we now have a moving panorama behind the game's menus. This is the original panoramic image that'll remain on this menu for many, many years, and in fact, it only changes in release version 1.13. So like the original pack.png, this was an iconic image that's part of Minecraft's history. And this is the panorama image we see. It's made up of 6 separate images stitched together, and the menus add a blurring effect when it's displayed in-game. In the menus it might look like a 360-degree image, but in reality, these 6 screenshots are textured onto the inside of a cube shape, and it's that cube which we're looking at in the menu. On the 18th of July 2020, the world seed for this image was found by the Minecraft at Home project. I've provided some links down below if you want to learn more about how the team managed to do this. It was Notch who screenshotted this image in early June of 2011, so it was most likely taken in a development version between Beta 1.6.6 and Beta 1.7. This is quite ironic because in Beta 1.8 the entire terrain generation would change, so it seems at odds to include an image showcasing Minecraft's terrain that was generated from a previous version's terrain generation. So this panoramic cleverly uses a textured cube shape, but before this, the devs were looking at doing this in a different way. After the announcement of the discovery of the world seed, DanoSongs responded on Reddit explaining that the original plan was to use an active running world to display the panorama. In other words, the game would procedurally generate a live running world and pan around it for this effect. DanoSongs posted a screenshot of what this world would have looked like. Notice in this screenshot as well that there's a new solid green bar between the hotbar and the hearts. I doubt this had ever been seen before DanoSongs posted this picture of it, but it looks like a placeholder of the XP bar that will make its way into the new gameplay features for Beta 1.8. Down here in the bottom left-hand corner, we now have the Minecraft Beta 1.8 pre-release, which is moved. It used to be up here in the top left-hand corner, and it's now much more bright. It matches the same typeface as over here on the copyright information. It's now white instead of light grey. In fact, if I just squeeze this across like so, we should be able to compare 2 versions of Minecraft simultaneously, Beta 1.7.3 on the left and Beta 1.8 pre-release on the right. If we go into the options menu, we can see that there are some changes here as well. There's a new field of view slider now, which lets you change the game's field of view from normal all the way up to Quake Pro, and that's something that we can test in-game a little bit later on. Under the video settings, we now have a new option for brightness. Again, it goes from moody all the way up to bright, and that's for players who might have a darker monitor than others. Going back out here and looking at the control section, we can see that the ability to toggle fog is now no longer present, so you can't do it in-game anymore. But we do have these 2 buttons up here, button 1 for attack and button 2 for use item. This is your left mouse button and your right mouse button, but you can change these to keys on your keyboard if you want, and that might be useful if, say, you're playing Minecraft on a laptop. There's also this one new key binding down here for the tab key, and that will now list players on a multiplayer server. The multiplayer menus have been overhauled as well. Previously, you would click multiplayer and just type in the name of the server that you wanted to connect to and then click connect. But in Beta 1.8, there's a whole new bookmarking system where you can add as many servers as you want into a list and keep them here forever. You just click add server and then give your server a name, let's say bugmancx's server. And then down in the server address, you type in where you want to connect to. I'm just running one here on my own machine and click done. Now, see, we have this new server in the list right here. It even supports this new query information that lets you see extra information about the server, as well as how many players are connected and the ping time between your client and the server. So that's all very handy and much, much easier when you want to manage multiple servers all at once. There are some brand new changes to how we generate new worlds in this version as well. In Beta 1.7.3 and previously, if you go into single player and create new world, you have the option of giving your world a name, let's call it my world, and then putting in a world seed if you want to. But this is optional, and then you click create new world and it will generate the world for you. In beta 1.8, going into single player, create new world, this screen has now changed slightly and we have some brand new options. We can still set a world name, say my world once again. We can change the game mode now, which we'll come back to in a moment. But now we have this more world options button. If I click that and go in, this is where I can now specify the seed, but I can also turn structures on or off. And it says down here that this is for villages, dungeons, etc. These are all new features in beta 1.8, which we will come to as soon as we can. Over here is also another button called World Type. It's set to normal, but this function is currently disabled, and that's because this feature isn't yet fully implemented as far as I know. Clicking on Done and going back, we have this Game Mode button. So Game Mode Survival is described as search for resources, crafting, gain levels, health and hunger. And if I change it, I can now choose Creative Mode. Creative Mode is unlimited resources, free flying and destroy blocks instantly. So I think we should try out Creative Mode, don't you? So if we click Create New World, we're going to generate a brand new world now in Creative Mode. Let's also just change the size of this window back because we no longer need our beta 1.7. Let's get rid of that. And here we are inside of Creative Mode. So this is a very early version of it. This has been in the game for a little while, but this is the first time that it's been accessible to players because you used to have to use mods in order to access this type of game mode if that's what you wanted previously. So we have our hotbar down the bottom, and our hotbar has several items, just like the old creative mode, if you could call it that, from the early classic versions where it would pre-populate that hotbar for you. So we have some stone, cobble, bricks and things like that. But now if I press E and bring up the inventory, we have the first version of the creative menu, and this has got every block and item in the game, and I can scroll up and down like this, and it works in much the same way. There are a lot less blocks in these versions than we have in modern Minecraft, so I can see why they needed to add the categorization system that they did in newer versions. There's also no ability to search here. I'm not sure exactly how it's ordered. It looks like we have some food down here and some things like that. There are some new items here which we will be able to explore in the game coming up. But let's see, we can take some bedrock, for example, and throw that away. That's a little bit annoying. Can we take a full stack? No, but we don't really need to. What is that? That was a strange visual effect. There it is again. Oh, and the chickens are broken because the textures are still broken in this version. Oh, yeah, well, that's what you get for playing a pre-release. Anyway, we'll come back and explore all of that as soon as we get back into our main survival world. But I was just going to say that with Creative here, we can now build infinitely with any blocks we choose, even bedrock, and we can destroy the blocks just like this really, really easily. So this is actually going to be a really convenient way for me and for players to be able to test things out within the game or build something in creative mode to test out your palette and your sizing and your structure without having to bother about going and hunting for resources or worrying about how long it takes to break blocks with the wrong tool. And of course, you get access to every item in the game, even things like sponges, which is something that we still don't have access to in the version of the game that we're playing at the moment. So, you know, that's all a lot of fun. In fact, this should probably work. So let's go and find some water. Aha, over here I found a little pool. So let's see if this sponge still works. No, it doesn't work. It just looks like the block's been added, but the functionality of the sponge doesn't really work. So one final thing about creative mode is that we have the ability to fly around. So if I double tap space, just like that, I didn't get it quite right the first time. We can now fly around. By pressing spacebar, I can float up higher and higher, and by holding down shift, I can go downwards like this. And this is just a great way of exploring a seed or looking for a particular biome or doing a creative build, which requires you to go up and down at great heights without having to put your scaffolding up and down. So this is a lot of fun. It really changes the way you can play the game and brings a brand new element to playing Minecraft. Well, we're back home in survival mode again, and we've respawned here next to the bed. Things are looking a little bit unusual in here. Much like my own texture, the chests are not rendering incorrectly, and this one seems to be invisible, while this one is shrouded in shadow and just turned green and its lid disappeared. And yes, it's happening everywhere too. My entire storage room seems like it's green and glowy, and it does look very strange, doesn't it? Oh, looks like poor old Bones and Jumpy weren't spared either. Half of your body's missing, mate. I seem to be being attacked by a floating bow. Well, that's a new one on me. Oh, this is going to be very annoying if the mobs don't render incorrectly. I think we'll have to explore this even further in the next episode. Don't shoot me. Oh, look at that. You can't get me, can you? Haha, I've outsmarted you. You're just a little shadow and a bow. Well, every time I restart the game, as in reload Minecraft entirely, this particular bug shows up in different ways each time. Sometimes the chests render in, sometimes they don't. Sometimes different parts of my player skin disappear, sometimes they don't. Sometimes mobs completely disappear, sometimes parts of them do. It's all very strange. I think it has to do with the new lighting engine that's been added into the game, but we can take a closer look at that in the next episode maybe. But for the time being, I'm going to outrun this skeleton, and I want to say thank you for watching today's episode, and I shall see you in the next one. If you're seeing this before Christmas, then Merry Christmas. I hope you enjoy your weekend, and I hope that you get a chance to see your friends and family. I know how difficult it's been in the real world to do that. As always, a huge and special thank you to my amazing patrons for supporting me, and I'll see you all in the next episode and the new year. Until then, this has been bugmancx. You've been watching Minecraft: The Journey. Bye-bye.